All right, I
John,
believe we're at.
John. All right, we'll start with Mike, then we'll circle back to John.
Yeah, Tony, how did you guys kind of spend this week without having a game? And what is it about Liam that makes him seemingly slump proof at the plate?
Yeah, I think any baseball player would put their shield up against that particular phrase, but I think, the fact that Liam is a hard worker, he's athletic, he's got savvy to him. I think a lot of it he comes from a great family, and then also a brother who played in the big leagues. Kind of gives you an overall combination. He's super well rounded. So he's athletic enough. He could bunt or beat out a 6-hole ground ball. He's got enough savvy and experience to realize, put things into perspective, I guess, and not get caught up in the wrong things or let anything get him too excited or too down. And then too, that work ethic thing. I mean, he's constantly working, and then also doing it in a way that he's not wearing himself out or complicating things. It's work up into the point where you've established whatever it is you're trying to get better at or achieve that day, and then move on to the next thing. So I'm listing just a few qualities, but I think because he's so well-rounded, you get well-rounded play every day. And a lot of these kids, I think we're performing better as a group, kind of the sum over the parts thing, because of who they are as kids. And then that would have to branch up to who their parents are. Because as much as you guys know what I think of Q, I mean, that culture in the weight room, and then our coaches do a good job, but we also only get them for a couple years. And, they're with their families for a lot longer than that. And I think the impact that's been made there shows up on our field, fortunately for us. And then to go back to your first question, it was a blessing this week to have Saturday be the finale. So instead of just kind of having an awkward week where you don't have that midweek, our guys got to focus on their finals, which is why we did not have a midweek, and also kind of reset themselves a little bit. Enjoy Saturday's win, relax on Sunday, Monday, get in the weight room, but not do much. Yesterday, get on the field, but keep it very light instead of having a full game day. And I really feel like some batteries will be recharged because of that. And now we'll just go into our very normal Wednesday practice and Thursday routine at Missouri. So the timing was right with the kind of the whole setup. We're very fortunate for it to click that way.
John.
What kind of point of pride is it that you have 8 that are getting their degrees, and it's really a nice diverse group? You have a member of the 05 team and Julio Borbon. You've got 2 young men and Will and Pete that are getting their masters, and 5 that are getting their degrees, including a member from the junior college ranks that you brought to Knoxville.
Yeah, no, it's a point of pride, starting with we're so proud that we have Megan Anderson with us, our academic coordinator. And it also frightens me anytime y'all ask academic questions, because I don't know what we would do without her. I've been able to work with her here and in previous years too. And you're not going to replace her or find anybody that's even close. So it all kind of starts there. But it is something you want to present to families, that the purpose of coming here is to grow as a man, regardless of how many games you win. And then also get a piece of paper that's going to work for you for a long, long time, 40 to 50 years, hopefully. And so all that's kind of culminated with those guys getting that degree. It's a longer list this year, which kind of makes it even a little sweeter.
All right, we'll go to Ben and then Ryan.
Yeah, Tony, I got a couple things. First, I'm curious about the hat. Any special meaning there?
It's just a Smoothie King hat.
I had to ask.
Provided for the boys, so they provided us with some goodies.
I love it. Do you have an update on Connor Pavaloni? And then just kind of looking back, what have been your thoughts on Jackson Greer defensively and his rapport with the pitchers?
Yeah, no political statements with any outfits out of me, but Jackson Greer has been what we thought he would be. Really frustrating for him. He's one of many guys to just get a little injury. It was on a pop-up behind the plate, just kind of a little tweak. And so now all of a sudden at Georgia, when we're just starting SEC play, he's not able to get a taste of what the league is all about. And, to get him back when we did was huge, because games like at Western Carolina, maybe even one of the games this weekend. I know Durkay could have done a good job for us. We don't win because Pav's not available. So, and I know his repetitions are starting to build, which helps us trust him in any situation. Whereas at the very beginning, to be honest with you, anytime someone's doing something for the first time, even regardless of how minute it is, you maybe aren't quite as confident in it. But now he's been there, done that. And we're about 2 hours. Sorry for the tease, but you can always text me or Sean, but we're about 2 hours from having an update on Pav. They'll re-X-ray and see what's going on there. So in the meantime, he's been Pav. He's just stayed as busy as possible, and he's been doing all the things he's supposed to do rehab-wise.
I was going to ask about Conor Housley. It doesn't seem like we've seen as much as him the last few weeks. Just where does he stand? And I guess what do you need to see from him to be more of a factor on the weekends?
Yeah, I think the stuff is obviously there. It's about being able to throw strikes, and he's a super athlete. One of our best guys at, if we give the pitchers BP, very rare, but he can drive the ball out of the park. He moves around well on the mound as far as fielding his position, but I think with the velocity training, sometimes you give up a little bit of accuracy. And I think for him, it's about being able to throw strikes right out of the gate, because these bullpen guys always have that pressure of, usually when they come in the game this time of year, it's you got to get right to work. It's not a, February game where maybe we've got a lead or the other team has a lead and we're just trying to get you some reps. It's go time. And so if he can show that he's go time with that really good stuff right out of the gate, then he could be in the mix to get any hitter out in the league. So that's kind of the challenge for him, and for us to bring him along in that fashion too.
All right, we'll go to Vince next.
Tony, two things. One, can you talk about those bench guys that don't get a ton of work and how they're able to stay engaged and help you guys, even if they don't get the opportunities, especially this week, not having a midweek game for some of them to play? And then can you talk about Jarrell Ortega specifically? I know he was a guy that excited you guys in the fall with how he was raking, but just hadn't had a ton of opportunities and just didn't have the numbers in there. How's he coming along?
Right. Well, he, like the other guys, actually get a ton of reps behind the scenes facing live pitching. And with a COVID roster, the numbers are inflated on both sides. So you've got multiple guys that need to get out there and throw, which is great for the hitters, and a bunch of hitters that need to hit, which is great for the pitchers, because they usually this time of year are throwing to maybe 4 or 5 guys at a time. They want to throw to, a bigger number, a larger number. So that's how we do those things. And how those guys are in the dugout is huge for us. We still don't have our travel roster made from Missouri. And I think a lot of what we get down to in the nitty gritty is, who do we think is just going to help our environment, in the hotel, in the dugout, and in between games, to help us do what we want to do, which is go win a series. So we take that stuff huge. We're grading the kids out and having conversations with them all the time about that stuff. And Jarrell in specific is one of those guys. He's always vocal in the dugout. I think defensively, the one thing we've tried to get him to kind of revisit is that grind he had on defense. Last year, he could not play with us because of the injury, and he was a maniac anytime we gave him defensive repetitions. I think he lost that edge a little bit. And then at the plate, he was as dangerous as anybody as possible. You can mention in the fall, didn't go his way early in the year. We follow these at bats. I think the one thing that he changed from freshman year to this year was really using the right center gap. And somewhere along the way, he started kind of hooking balls back towards that third base line often. And if we can kind of remove that and make him more of that all field hitter with strength that he's capable of being, he might be pinch hitting with the series on the line, whether it be this weekend or next.
We'll go back to Mike, and then we got time for a few more. So we'll go back to Mike and then John.
Yeah, Tony, did you have a chance to have any sort of scrimmage for young guys this week? And did anyone stand out? If so, and then what are your impressions of Missouri?
Yeah, last night was a very, very moderate version of that. I think we went with 4 pitchers total. Elijah finished the deal, looked really good. But I think it was a maximum of 2 at-bats for some guys. And then today, Wednesday's always been a day where we've involved some guys, because you might play on a Tuesday and not use Sean Scott or whoever it might be. So you would complement Tuesday's at-bats with Wednesday. So we'll do that again today. So it's not really a complete body of work. Jason Rackers was good yesterday. He may have started if we would have had a Tuesday game, but he was good at the start. And like I said, Elijah was really good at the end. Will Mabry, it was just big for us to get him in that routine of what he appears to be for us, is get ready real quick, hustle out of the pen, face maybe 1 or 2 guys max, but then you may be asked to do the exact same thing the next day. So he was able to do that as well. Luke Lipschitz hit a homer yesterday. So those were kind of the highlights. We'll get more action today. Missouri, the most important thing for us is to get to Missouri safely, have a good workout Thursday, and then game 1. I mentioned win the series, but the buck kind of stops, here when you're talking about Friday's game, because their Friday starter is 94 to 98 and throws plenty off speed pitches as well and throws them for strikes. So you're getting a true Friday matchup of guys with really good stuff. Velo's there, off speed is there. So that just starter battle is really where we need to narrow our focus. But you do need to look at the opponent as a whole. I know going into the year, they really like their club. They won plenty of non-conference games. When you get into our league, anything can happen, whether it be good, bad, back and forth, good and bad. And they probably haven't had as much luck go their way at times, that they would like, based off watching those Alabama games, because they were winning a couple of those games and they ended up, not able to come away with the win. So the fact they're leading such a good team and at times was by a big number in Alabama shows they're capable of doing that to anybody. And, like most SEC games, they'll all probably come down to the nitty gritty, just as they did against, again, that Crimson Tide club.
To be at this stage of the season and be tied for first atop the East, you just mentioned that it's all about the workout, then it's game 1. I'm just wondering, what does it feel like to have your team in this position with 9 conference games left?
You won't like my answer, John. It's really far away, man. 11 games is a lot of. I would pay $1 million to go back in college and play 11 games. So just to get to play is a blessing and something that you count the number a little bit. But it's not small enough on your hand to where you start predicting what your future is, because we do want to play into June, obviously, but we talk so much about May around here, and now we're in it. And we started off on a good note, fortunately, against Kentucky in May. So it's important for us to kind of continue to go with what works for us in the step-by-step deal, because, again, if we're in Shawshank Redemption, we're nowhere near out of the tunnel yet. You're kind of in the middle somewhere when the lightning's going off. So for now, we'll hopefully emphasize the things that have gone well for us this year and continue to subtract some of the things we don't think have gone well for us.
All right, Gustavo, last question.
Coach, how do you see the parity of the SEC East? You guys are tied with Vandy first place. You got Florida, just 1 game behind us. So how do you see the parity of the SEC East and the competitiveness of this division in baseball?
Well, I mentioned Missouri has shown that they're fully capable of beating anybody. I think the way you would flip that in favor of us in this scenario is if we're involved in any conversation with those 2 clubs, because everyone knows what kind of arms they have. And of course, they also have offensive talent. But if we're in any conversation with those 2 clubs, or a program like, South Carolina has been hitting a ton of home runs, and I know they've got good arms too, then you're doing a few things right. So, but at the same time, it's a conversation for us to have in this setting. If it were a conversation I was to pull Jake Rucker aside during pregame and have, it would make no sense, because again, there's so much left to do in this season, and you could even pile on with the SEC tournament. So if you're fortunate enough to play 3 games, which is not asking too much for any program in the league, you're still talking about 12 SEC games, which is nearly half of your regular season schedule of SEC games. And then 2 Tuesday games that we have left too, that'll be enormous for us. They're against in-state rivals. and we need to keep getting guys out there so they're primed and ready for any situation that could come their way. So in the big scheme of things, like I said, it's complimentary, but it's also, like I mentioned to John, a little too far off in the distance to start counting where you're at or anything like that.
Thank you so much, Coach. It's been a pleasure covering you.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed visiting with you too. And I appreciate you guys always being patient. I know today was a little bit of a scramble. John, do you want to do one more, or what do we got?
No, unless if you got time for more, we can do one more. It's up
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, I know
All right.
Ryan had a question.
Yeah, Ryan, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, you've talked about not playing, I guess, y'all's best baseball yet. With the consistency of the lineup, top to bottom, the past few weeks, do you feel like you're closer to that? And what all goes into you guys playing your best baseball?
Yeah, getting there. I probably shouldn't even say the word, but I think health is a big thing. It'd be nice to have every option for the coaching staff, and then for the kids. Some of them have battled through things that they've had to kind of put in the back of their mind, and we haven't presented them necessarily to the opponent or you guys. And then some of them, like what Pav's going through right now, you all are fully aware of. So I think part of it is being as healthy as you can be at the end of the season. No one's going to be 100% at the end of the season. And then what it looks like is what it looks like in a October scrimmage where we got pizza on the line or something goofy like that. And the guys are really at each other's throats, but they're also having fun, because at the end of the day, they're probably, the losing team's going to get pizza. It's just going to be cheese pizza or something like that. But, basically that balance of, being focused and really getting after it the way we want our kids to play the game, but also being loose and playing it, as if it was their little league days, when things are simple and you're not worried about what's on social media or what's on the scoreboard, or if you're going to get credit for this or not, or, how the scorekeeper is going to score the deal. So I think when you got a healthy Tennessee roster, and that is kind of the loose but focused approach they have to the game, then it's really fun to be at the park.
All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.